Hi, today I am going to explain a movie called Rambo Last Blood, where a war veteran saves his niece and takes brutal revenge on a criminal. Cartel. During a severe storm, the rescuers look for missing tourists. As a volunteer, John Rambo, an elderly Vietnam veteran and an excellent tracker, helps them. He manages to save a young girl with a couple dies. John returns home to the farm, takes some pills and drinks tea with his relative. It's a heartache and remembers the people he could not save. But also remembers his brothers who died in the war. He goes to the underground labyrinth and sits alone. Only this helps him survive the pain. In the morning, John rides a new obstinate stallion and has breakfast and then goes to his favorite underground labyrinth, where he is tormented by Vietnamese flashbacks. To cope with difficult memories, he is helped by physical work. He forges a knife and his niece Gabriella, a very young girl, brightens up his life. She's going to go to college. The old man loves her. They ride horses together. He even allows her to invite friends over and show them the underground tunnel. In the evening, Gabriella spends time with her friends in her uncle's labyrinth. At this moment, someone calls her. When her friends go home, girl tells Uncle John that she has found her father, who lives in Mexico. She wants to go to another country and meet him, but Ramo doesn't like it at all. The veteran is afraid to let go of the baby. A dangerous world is far away. After all, he raised her for many years as his own daughter. In the morning, Gabrielle insists on her own. She wants to see her own father and ask in person why he left her. John and her grandmother are trying to dissuade her. We learn that Gabriella's mother died of cancer many years ago and her father was never interested in her life. Girl agrees with the arguments of her relatives and pretends leave to study, but turns the other way. Gabriella comes to Mexico to her friend, and in the evening he takes her to her father. Dear father does not burn with the desire to communicate with his daughter. He says that he never wanted her and advises not to look for a meeting with him anymore. The girl runs away in tears. To console Gabriella, her friend brings her to a nightclub. Their young beauty meets a guy. He treats her to a drink and pours something into a glass. In the next scene, we see bandits making a deal. This is a criminal cartel where girls are sold in a brothel, and John finds out that his niece went to Mexico and disappeared. He gets into the car and goes in search of her. Gabrielle finds herself in a terrible basement along with other similar girls who were captured. The main bandit threatens them with reprisals if they escape. Gabriella weeps bitterly from fear and without strength. John Rambo arrives in Mexico, and the first thing he meets is the girl's father, but he of course does not know where she is. Then the veteran finds Gabriella's friend. She says that she got drunk at the disco and they got lost. Like, you can't fool Rambo. He notices Gabriella's bracelet on her hand, which she once gave mother, and immediately guesses that a friend sold his adopted daughter into slavery. The girl brings John to the nightclub and shows the same guy who took away his niece en route. Rimbin attacks him and demands to tell where Gabriella is. He is silent. Then the war hero beats him, forcibly put in a car, and leaves. At this time, for some woman, a guy shows Rimbid where's the brothel. When the sold girls are delivered, a veteran knocks him out and goes to help his niece, but getting into the gangsters' lair is not so easy. After all, there are armed people around. At this time, the cops come to the brothel, but not to free them but to take full advantage of the girls that brutally grabbed Gabriella and do everything to her. And the pimps say that the captives will have to work hard and serve 40-50 men a night. At this time, Rimbid is surrounded by bandits. They find a photo of Gabriella in his wallet and they brutally beat him. They leave John alive so that he suffers every day from the realization of how mercilessly they torture his girl. Imparting, the criminals leave a mark on his cheek. Beating John, Rambo is picked up by a woman who has been following him all this time. The bandits drug Gabriella of illegal substances and they'd leave their mark on her face. Rimbid is examined by a doctor, a veteran. For a long time he is unconscious, and only after 4 days he comes to his senses. The woman who saved and calls herself Carmen, she's an independent journalist, has been tracking down the criminal Cardinal for a long time. 2 years ago, the Martinez brothers stole her sister. After that, the girl was found dead. John asked Carmen to help him find his niece. Rimbid comes to the brothel disguised as a client. He brutally beats the guards and finds Gabrielle in a semi-alive state. She is exhausted to unconsciousness and pumped up of strong substances. The monsters mocked her for several days. John takes her in his arms, puts the car and takes her home, and the bandits are furious and go after them in pursuit. In the car, Gabriella asks her uncle for forgiveness, but he says which is not at all offended by her. After all, she who filled his life with meaning. The girl closes her eyes forever and dies. John mourns her, and in the morning he brings the bodies home to bury them with dignity. Rimbid advises grandmother Gabriella to go to live somewhere else, and he himself prepares for a meeting with a bandit group. John carries out thorough work and strengthens his underground labyrinth. Foreign music visits his girlfriend Carmen and asks to help him find the geeks who killed his niece. The journalist tries to convince him to forget everything and start living again, but the veteran is adamant and dreams of cruel retribution. He violently kills one of the Martinez brothers who owned the criminal cartel and leaves a photograph next to his body. The deceased Gabriela, the surviving brother, comes to furious and gathers his entire gang to take revenge. The entire crime family goes to the ranch where the Vietnamese veteran lives, but Rambo is ready for a hot reception. Several gangster cars at once take off into the air from a powerful explosion and shatter into pieces. The criminals grab their guns and run to the house, but many of them die immediately. After all, arrows are flying at them. At this moment, Rimbaugh jumps out of the ground and shoots his opponent in the back and then hides in the cellar. A bandit has to go down. They go through the underground labyrinth, but some of them immediately get deadly bullets to further confuse criminals. Rambo turns on the music to the fullest. He kills a few more thugs with ease, some getting covered on the bomb while others fall into his deadly traps, and now almost all the thugs are killed. The most important of them, Martinez the bandit, manages to shoot Rambo, but the hero doesn't care and he slips away. After all, he feels like a fish in water in his underground labyrinth. John gives Martinez a parrot yawn that his days are numbered. The head of criminal family runs through the tunnel. The bombs explode almost every step. He gets out of the maze and finds himself in a barn where Rambo fires several arrows in him. The bandit is chained to the wall and cannot move but is still alive. John gives him the last most powerful blow and tears his heart out of his chest in the same way how he ripped out his heart when he killed his adopted daughter. A bloody wounded Rambo leaves the barn and sits on his favorite chair on the porch. He promises to do everything possible so that the memory of his dead relatives and friends will live forever. And here movie ends. Thank you for watching and see you on the channel.